Hello, Bitcoiners, traders, supporters, helpers, subscribers, followers, haters, all of you. Welcome. Welcome to another live session with Oliver Velez. Of course, my name is Oliver Velez, and boy, do I have a presentation for you today. So welcome once again. I've missed you guys. I've missed you. I've been on the road for the past 2 months, spending some time. Uh-oh. I hope everything's okay. Spending 2 months. I spend 2 months out of the year in Europe, predominantly in Spain, every single year. And I just got back from that 2 month period. I've missed you during that period. I hope you all have been doing well. I hope you all have missed me. All right, but Bitcoin is pumping. Bitcoin is pumping. We are over $69,000 per Bitcoin at the current moment. But for those of you who are familiar with my work, you know that Bitcoin tends to pump every single time I go live. So here we are once again, guys. Here we are once again. All right. All right. Pumping. Pumping. Look at that, guys. Look at that. Whoa. Look at that. Whoo. Gotta love that thing. Okay. Awesome. All right. Before we get started, guys, I'm very curious. Where are we piping in from? First of all, how many people are here? I want to see how many people are here. And where are you? Let me know, guys, where you are piping in from. Why is this not working? Let me know where you are piping in from, if you don't mind. Oh, I see. Okay. Let me know where you are piping in from, guys. Where are you coming from? What city are you from? What nation are you from? What country are you from? Let me know. I am curious. How many people do we have here? All right, I see Montreal, I see Sweden, Boston, Canada, India, Jersey, Iowa. Oh my goodness, Florida. I can't even read this. Florida, Richmond, Texas, BC, Canada, South Africa, Las Vegas. It's just going by too fast, guys. Montreal, uh, India, Philippines, Greece, St. Lucia, Nigeria. Whoo! We've got an international audience. Wow. All over the world. All over the world. Welcome. Welcome. Good morning to you. Good afternoon. Good evening, wherever you are in the world. But guys, before I don't want to hold you too very long because as many of you probably know, this is, I believe, is the final day for the Bitcoin conference that's being held in Nashville. It's a very exciting day because former President Trump is slated to speak on this day. I don't want this presentation in any way interfering with a big portion of that. So I do want us to get through this, but I promise you, over the next hour to hour and a half, what I'm going to cover is going to be very powerful, very powerful. So I strongly encourage that you take some notes, grab something, grab the beverage of your choice, grab a pen, a notebook, grab your cell phone, wherever you take notes. You want to take a few notes on this presentation here, okay? And largely, I want to communicate to you guys. I want to communicate to you why this is your final chance. I'm going to dedicate the next hour of our time here together to convince you that this is your last chance. You will not have another chance. The final chance is now. It is time to act now, or you will forever, ever regret not acting now. Now, some of you might not believe me at this particular point, but I'm sure that those of you who do not believe me, if you sit and listen to what I'm about to explain to you, you will be a believer after this presentation. This is your final chance, people. And on my watch, I don't want you to miss this. All right? All right, very quickly, for those of you who have no idea who I am, I'm the founder of iPhoneTraders.com, guys. I've been a professional trader for 37 years. I've been trading the financial markets for 43 years, if you count the idiot years. I'm a pioneer in the direct access trading market. I was one of the pioneers for spurring on the electronic short-term oriented trading craze that started actually all the way back in the late 1980s, became extraordinarily popular with online trading in the 1990s. I formed a variety of companies which I sold for hundreds of millions of dollars. Several times, I'm the author of five best-selling books on the topic of trading markets for a living. I have a trading team that spans, I have a trading organization that spans over 95 different countries. We are over 13,000 traders strong. I fund many of them with my own personal capital. I also continue to be, in my industry, one of the most sought after speakers on the topic of trading markets for a living. All right, I've been written up in virtually every single financial periodical you can possibly think of. I had trading offices on 3 different continents, in five different locations all around the world for a number of years. I've spoken at virtually every single financial venue you can speak of. I've been invited to speak all over the world, and of course was a frequent guest on all of your popular financial programs, which I don't do today. I'm largely retired from that today. Here's an image of some of my trading books, which are written in 5 different languages, guys: English, Spanish, German, Japanese, and Mandarin. And if you want to follow me on any other social networks, guys, most of my Bitcoin content is shared on x.com, and some of my other trading content is shared on the other financial social media networks. But if you're purely looking for Bitcoin signal, it's x.com. I strongly encourage that you like and subscribe to this channel as well as my other channels. What's not listed here is my Bitcoin channel, Bitcoin Unleashed. I strongly encourage that you subscribe, click the bell in the upper right-hand corner, like the videos, guys. That helps the algorithm, help this content get spread to a larger number of people. So I really appreciate if you do me that favor. I spend a lot of time each day making sure that I deliver something of value to you every single day. All right, so subscribe to the channels, guys. Make sure you click the bell in the upper right-hand corner so that you don't miss a single piece of content. All right, guys, let's begin. Let us begin, guys. I just want to quickly double check here and make sure we are fine. Yes, we are fine. And you know what I think I want to do? I think I want to take myself off here because I don't want to. Let me take myself off here. Give me a second here. Boom. Let's do it like that. You don't need to see my face here. All right, guys. I think that for those of you who are somewhat familiar with Bitcoin, what it is, its value proposition, and what's been going on, especially this year, you will be familiar with the fact that Bitcoin just halved, right? Every 4 years, Bitcoin's issuance rate, the amount of new Bitcoin that becomes available to the world, gets cut in half. All right. So Bitcoin just halved. All right. In April of this year, April 19th this year, 2024. These halving events are very, very important because what they do is make Bitcoin as a commodity, as an asset, harder in nature. Now, what do I exactly mean by Bitcoin being harder in nature? Commodities as well as monies throughout the world are the value of each commodity and money is largely dependent on how hard it is. So what does hard mean as an asset? It means it's harder to produce more. Okay? So this halving on April 19th of 2024, Bitcoin became the hardest money the world has ever known. On April 19th of this year, with this halving, Bitcoin became harder to produce than gold, harder to produce than any other commodity on planet Earth, harder to produce than any other money that has ever existed in the history of human mankind. This is extraordinarily important, and its hardness will only get harder every 4 years for the next 100 plus years. So right now, we can say that Bitcoin is the hardest asset on planet Earth. Now, listen to me here. One metric that we use to judge hardness is a metric called the stock to flow ratio. Now, this is a relatively old metric. It is largely used in the gold market, but it has been used for real estate. It's been used for diamonds. It's been used for virtually all commodities, but it is predominantly used for gold. Now, I want to quickly explain exactly what this is, okay? I think this is important. All right, let me just make sure here. I'm going to have to adjust this here. Gold's stock to flow ratio currently is around 58, maybe 60. Now, what this means, generally speaking, is that it largely will take 60 years to double the current supply of gold. That's largely what a 60 stock to flow actually means. That it will generally take 60 years of mining, 60 years of constant mining to double the current supply. Now, a soft money, that's a hard money. A stock to flow of 60 is very hard. So an easy money would be, I can double the supply with the stroke of a pen, or I can double the supply digitally on my computer, or I can double the supply in a year or 2 years. Those are soft monies. All right. All fiat currencies are very soft monies because 12 men sitting in a room called the Federal Reserve can basically decide to print dollars out of thin air or print fiat currency out of thin air. They can double the supply instantly. They can double the supply in a year. They can double the supply in 2 years. It's basically up to them. Those are soft monies. Okay, so the true value of a money can be judged by its stock to flow or its hardness. Now, gold is one of the hardest commodities with a stock to flow of 60. Well, as of April 19th, Bitcoin stock to flow shot up to around 118. So what this number means is that on average, it would take 118 years, if it were possible, but it's not possible. If it were possible to double the supply of Bitcoin, it would take 118 years to do so at the current issuance rate, at the rate at which new Bitcoin becomes available to the human species every 10 minutes. It would take 118 years, if that were possible to continue for 118 years, to double the supply. That means that with a stock to flow of 118, Bitcoin is exponentially more superior as a commodity, as an asset, as a store of value than gold is. Now, real estate is known to have somewhat of a stock to flow ratio of about 100. So Bitcoin is even largely far more superior as a store of value, as a parking place for your hard-earned value, your hard-earned work. It is far more superior than real estate. There is no asset as of April 19th that is harder and more scarce than Bitcoin. This is extraordinarily important today and will continue to grow in importance as time goes on. All right? Now, guys, let me just quickly I have to do something very, very, very quickly here. Create a quick hotkey for. Give me a second here. Done. Let's see. 2 and 1. Boom. Got it. Good, good. All right. So that's very clear. Now, this is the halving math. There's no really, I'm going to do a deep dive on this mathematical equation that by code guarantees that every 4 years the issuance rate of Bitcoin gets cut in half. This is the Bitcoin's monetary policy. I'll do that deep dive at some point in the future. This is Bitcoin's entire monetary policy laid out all the way to the year 2140. Look at the bottom right-hand side of this monetary policy schedule. Now, I want to quickly show you where we are in the cycle, where we are in Bitcoin's monetary policy cycle. We are in the fourth halving right here. This is where we are, 2024. Every 4 years, the halving, the issuance rate gets cut in half. This is laid out all the way to when in 2136, Bitcoin is issuing 1 Satoshi at a time, releasing 1 Satoshi, 1/100th of a current Bitcoin, 1/100th of a Bitcoin every 10 minutes until there is none left to issue in 2140. All right? Now, this is the only asset, the only money that has its monetary policy laid out all the way for the next 100 years for you to see. It is the only monetary policy that cannot be manipulated, cannot be changed, cannot be altered by a single human being, organization, or government on planet Earth. There is nothing in this world that we have that is laid out its future and that we can trust that its future will not be changed. Its word will not be reneged on because it is code, and it is decentralized code which no human being can have influence over. This is extraordinarily very powerful. Now, this is a very quick picture of the various halvings where we started off. The Bitcoin network started off issuing 50 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. After the first halving, you can see it went to 25 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. After the halving in 2016, it dropped in half to 12.5 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. All right. In 2020, the halving dropped the issuance to 6.25 Bitcoin released to the world every 10 minutes. And this is the current, as of April 19th of this year, the network halved the issuance to 3.125 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. In 2028, this number will be cut in half to 1.06 and change, 1.06 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. And in 2032, it'll be cut in half. And in 2036, it will be cut in half all the way to 2140, which is basically here laid out in advance. For the first time, we can count on something. For the first time, we can plan our life around an asset, around a commodity, around a money that will not change on us. Every money, every commodity is changeable and has been changeable throughout the human race. This is the first time we have one that will not change, cannot be altered, manipulated, inflated, or moved in any way by any human being or organization on planet Earth. Now, this is another quick picture of how we went from 6.25 Bitcoin being issued to the world to 3.125 Bitcoin issued to the world, making Bitcoin the hardest asset, the hardest money human beings have ever been in contact with. Now, that was laying the groundwork, guys. That was laying the groundwork. Now, I want to start the presentation. This is the main point I want to get across to you today. If there's anything that you take away from our talk today, this is what I want you to take away. You are not ready. Let me show you. Watch this. You are not ready. I know you're not ready. I read your comments. I see your posts. I receive your DMs. I look at your questions. And through all of them, I can tell the majority of you are not ready. Here's what you're missing. You're missing this. Every 4 years, Bitcoin adds a zero. Every cycle, Bitcoin operates in 4-year cycles based off its halving. Every single cycle, Bitcoin adds a zero. Bitcoin is a mathematical protocol. No one's going to change this. This is not going to change. Bitcoin is on its way to adding the next zero or more at 100,000. Its last halving achieved 10,000. The prior one achieved 1,000. The prior one achieved 100. Now, the next level is 100,000. We're at 69,000 right now. Okay? We're very close. Now, understand this, that there are times when a single halving can achieve 2 zeros. And this is what confuses some people with this. Sometimes the 100 can achieve 1,000 and 10,000 in one cycle. But the second one doesn't count. Do you understand? That's the overshoot. I don't want you to confuse this. Every cycle has its zero, all right? So the last cycle had its zero 10,000. Now, I understand that the prior cycle passed 10 and went almost to 20. But that 20 didn't count because 20,000 was the overshoot zero. We don't count the overshoot. We count the one that is supposed to be achieved. So last cycle, it was the 10,000 level that was supposed to be achieved. The prior cycle, it was the 1,000 level. The prior cycle, it was the 100 level. This cycle, it's now the 100,000 level. Now, Bitcoin never just goes to the zero. As I mentioned, it often surpasses the zero, sometimes as much as achieving the zero that belongs in the following halving or the following cycle. But it never just brushes the zero, or it never just barely achieves it. It always passes it quite exponentially. So the last cycle, guys, passed the 10,000 and reached all the way to almost 20,000. It almost doubled the zero it was supposed to achieve. Okay? And well, actually, it passed the 1,000 and went past the 10,000 and the 20,000. So my point is that we are in the 100,000 cycle, which means that Bitcoin should surpass 100, not by a little bit, but by quite a decent amount. Will it double 100,000? Will it triple 100,000? If Bitcoin were to achieve the 2 zeros instead of 1, so it would achieve not only 100, but could it almost brush or even achieve the second zero that belongs in the next halving, which is 1 million? So my point here is this, guys. 100, the following cycle leads to, let me do this over here. 100 is one cycle. We add a zero the next cycle, that would be 1,000. Sometimes it overshoots. We don't count the overshoot. The next cycle, we add a zero, and it's 10,000. We are currently in the 100,000 cycle. This is our cycle. This is the 2024 cycle 0. Okay? We don't just achieve the 0, we greatly surpass the 0 every single time. Sometimes achieving the next 0, which would be 100, which would be 1 million. Adding the 0. But we are here. Okay? So, based on what Bitcoin has always done, is it has gone between, it has greatly surpassed the 0 it's supposed to reach, and it broaches the very next 0, sometimes even passing the next 0. So what does this mean? It means that we fall this cycle somewhere between 100 and 1 million. Now, I know that's a wide price range, but what we're going to try to do today is zero in on what's the possibilities of it being closer to 1 million this cycle. And when I mean this cycle, guys, I'm talking 2025, late 2025 ends the cycle. I am talking a little bit more than a year and a half. So we have a year and a half left in this cycle. When I speak of this cycle, I'm talking by not this upcoming December, the following December. That's what's remaining in this cycle. So based on Bitcoin's prior history, based on its mathematical halving, it achieves a new 0 and some every 4 years. This cycle is the 100 0. And every single time it greatly surpasses that. So we can, using history, count on Bitcoin greatly surpassing 100. Sometimes it actually achieves the next 0, which means possibly it's 1 million. So we've got a wide range here, 100 to 1 million. Let's take that theory and move from here, okay? All right. I even wouldn't say it's a zero. Let's take that history and move it here. Another way of looking at this is that every 4 years, Bitcoin goes through a halving and adds a new digit. This, in my opinion, is somewhat of an easier way for some people resonate with looking at it this way better. So let's go over it this way. What I've done here is I've marked the price at every halving, or every Bitcoin halving. So Bitcoin starts at zero, of course. It's at its first halving, it is at $12. Okay? So this is a 2-digit. So do you see how it skipped one here? But okay, so we're going to start here. It's a 2-digit number. The following halving, this is in 2012, the following halving in 2016, it adds a digit. So it goes from 2 digits to 3 digits, 653. The following halving in 2020, it adds another digit. It goes from 3 digits to 4 digits. You see where I'm getting at here, people? Do you see what I'm trying to communicate to you? All right. So we're at 4 digits in 2024. The halving that just happened happened by adding a 5th digit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Halving number 5, which occurs in 2028, should add a 6th digit, which means that obviously it is above 100,000. Now, how far above? Well, if we use history as a guide, it's always greatly above that. But I want you to look at these jumps every halving. $12 to $650. You know what kind of gain that is? 650 to 8,568. Look at the gain from here. 8,000 to 62,500. What do you think the next one's going to be? 400? 700? Let's take a look. This is Bitcoin's halving history. This is the history of Bitcoin prices. Another way of looking at it. But I want you to know look at what happens after every halving. This is why you have approximately a year and a half after the halving. 1 year and a half after the halving is left in the cycle, more or less. We are here. You see? We are here. Well, we are here now, but this was the halving. We have another year and a half of upside potential. Okay? So having the cycles tend to end about late 2025. Now, let's take a look at this. It is commonly said that history may not repeat, but it often rhymes. Well, with Bitcoin, because it's a mathematical protocol, and no one can change the fact that 1 + 1 = 2, because no one can tamper with it, because no one can control it, because no one can influence it, because no one can debase it, because no one can inflate it, Bitcoin is closer, can be said, Bitcoin is closer to an asset that can repeat itself. Not rhyme, but actually repeat itself. And if you look at the prior halvings, look at how similar the patterns look. They're almost identical. They're almost identical. You see that secondary blip up there before the blast off? So you get this boom, secondary, and boom. You get this boom, secondary, and boom. It's just a matter of degree, right? Boom, rally, boom, secondary attempt, and go. Now, this is a little dated. We're here. Drop, secondary, and we're close to going. So you always get this secondary, that secondary dip after the halving, that secondary dip after the halving, that secondary dip after the halving, and then it's blast off time. So this is one of the reasons why, guys, I have been pounding the table every single day. Your time is limited. You don't have a lot of time. Stack harder, right? Buy the dip. Be price agnostic. Do not worry about price. These prices mean nothing. The prices today mean absolutely nothing compared to the prices of late 2025. This has happened every single time in Bitcoin's history. It's a mathematical protocol. No one can change maths. Okay. You can see it's math working out virtually the same way every single time. You are fortunate to be here. You are not late. You are fortunate to be there. This is where we are right now. You are not ready. Do not even tell me that you are. You are not ready. You are not prepared. This was the last halving, and we know what's next. If the prior halvings are any guide, you know what's next. This is next. And you're right here. You're right here, people. You're right here. But you do not have a lot of time. Your time is limited. You will not be right here for very long. All right? All right. Now, guys, I want to see, I'm not looking at your comments or anything, but I do want to quickly take a look. I just want you to tell me, do you understand so far what I'm saying? Are you picking up what I'm laying down? Does this make sense? I want to see it. I'm not going to move on until I see a few of you say, yes, I understand, Oliver. We get it. Let me know. I'll sip on my coffee until I see it. I know we're operating on somewhat of a delay when we're live, so I'll wait and see. All right. Yes. Awesome. Good, 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 good. Now I see a question here by Anthony Stewart who says, "Didn't we get the fifth zero in 2021?" Maybe you asked this before I addressed it, but it's important to understand that you can't confuse the cycles during which Bitcoin achieves two zeros. You have to eliminate the second one. Don't count the second zero. Every cycle has its own zero. It might overshoot and touch the other zero that belongs in the following cycle, but that one doesn't count. Do you understand? Every cycle has a zero assigned to it. Don't get the cycles where Bitcoin achieves two zeros. Don't get those confused. Okay? It doesn't change the fact that this cycle, this is the zero. Bitcoin is overzealous that way. Bitcoin is an overachiever. When you tell it its cycle, it's 10,000, it goes to 70,000. When you tell it its cycle is 1,000, it goes to 14,000. When you tell it its cycle is 100,000, it goes to 700,000. It's an overachiever. It's overzealous, but don't confuse its nature to overachieve the zero with the zero. Okay? It's very important to understand. Monet says, please briefly explain stock to flow. It's a very simple formula. All you're going to do is you're going to take the available supply that is available to the world of a commodity right now, and you're going to divide it, right, by its issuance rate. Okay? So Bitcoin's issuance rate, I think, is something like 1.8%. And so what that means is that, you know, if you look at gold as an example, right? Of all the gold that is supposedly available above ground now, Bitcoin is producing 2% of that. I mean, gold is producing new gold at the rate of 2% of its available supply every year. 2%. Okay? So if you divide 2% into the total global supply of gold, you get its stock to flow. So if you get 60, it means that it takes 60 years to double the supply. If you get 118, which is Bitcoin stock to flow, it takes 118 years to double the supply. The longer it takes to double the supply of something, the harder your asset. That means it's harder to make it, harder to find it, harder to mine it. You want a money that's hard. You do not want a money that's soft and weak and flimsy. You want a money that's hard and solid and sound. All right. Okay, guys, let's go. Good, 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 good. All right, guys, check this out now. Smoke on this. Check this out. We today are way ahead of any cycle that has ever occurred. We're way ahead of every single Bitcoin halving that has ever existed. We're way ahead. So let me show you this. Let me show you this here. At the last halving, you see, this indicates, shout out to the Rational Root, by the way, for producing this. But we are roughly 5% past the halving. 5% past the last halving. 5% past the prior one, and 5% past the prior one. Now, what I want to show you is that the last halving, we were here, but the all-time high was there, more than 100% above the place at 5% past the halving. At this 5% past the halving, we were here, but Bitcoin's former high was way above it. We are now here, and the former high is the same. The former high was 69, people. We're at 69. Do you see this? We've never been at the former high 5% of the time after the last halving, or several weeks after the last halving. We've never been at the prior high ever in Bitcoin's history. And if you thought Bitcoin's history was impressive, of course you have to. It's the best performing asset the world has ever seen. The best performing asset in the last 10 years, the best performing asset in the last 15 years, the best performing asset in the last 5 years, the best performing asset in the last 3 years. It's the best performing asset in virtually every single, by every single metric you can think of. It has outperformed every single asset human beings have ever been exposed to by orders of magnitude. And now think about that. The very best asset that has ever existed is actually better this cycle? What? The last halving occurred when Bitcoin was at 7,000 and change. Do you understand? You understand this? The prior high was 20,000. We're now at 69,000. And the prior high was 69,000. By every single measure, Bitcoin is performing better than it ever has. And it's amazing history. Does this mean that potentially Bitcoin is about to break its own freaking records? It's already starting to break its own records. It made a new high before the halving, something it never did in its entire history. We're now trading at the same high of the last cycle, which Bitcoin never did in its prior history. And its prior history is the best history of any asset we've ever known. Are we about to see Bitcoin do something it's never done before? Because it's already starting to. It's already starting to do things it's never done before. Are we about to see an explosion? Are we about to see a price rise? Are we about to see an ascent that will make all prior ascents look like child's play? I think that's a very good possibility. Bitcoin has started to break its own freaking records, and there is nothing that has even come close to its past records. Bitcoin is competing with itself. And I believe there's good odds that this cycle breaks the record of every prior cycle in Bitcoin's history. And it's already starting to happen. New high before the halving, broke its record. Trading at the high at this point in the cycle after the halving, never happened before, broke a record. Is what's next going to be the next record to be broken? The ascent? The late year halvings rise that happens every single halving year. Is that rise going to be the next thing, the next record that Bitcoin breaks? I think so. I think so. All right, guys, let's get back to it. Here's another way. Let's see if we can take another way of looking at this. Here's another way of looking at this. Here is the prior cycle. This, guys, is the 2020 cycle on the right. Bitcoin at the halving, right, was around 8,000, high 7s, low 8,000s. We were right here. But I want you to look at where the prior cycle's high was. Now, this is where we are. This is where we were at the halving of this cycle, and look at the prior high. Do you see the difference? Are you kidding me? Bitcoin's never done this, ever, people, ever. And we're talking about a past that has broken every conceivable record human beings ever had. And we're now talking about a time, we're talking about this time, Bitcoin starting off breaking all of its prior amazing records. Are we in store for something so epic that we can't even wrap our minds around this? It's looking like it. It's looking like it. Tom Lee, which is one of the most respected analysts on the street today, on Wall Street today, he continues to pound the table on $150,000 by late this year, not late 2025, by late this year. That's a few months away. Guys, that's a few weeks away if you really think about it. 150 by late 2024, wouldn't that be an amazing Christmas gift? OMG. Now, Samson Mao gives reasons why Bitcoin could reach 1 million this year. Now, before you scoff at this, remember we went over the fact that Bitcoin achieves the next zero, which is 100,000. That Bitcoin achieves the next zero and usually does so by a lot. And sometimes it even achieves the next zero, which is 1 million. It's done that twice. Think about that. And it's already starting off. Guys, look, what I'm trying to paint for you is that these predictions are not as wild as they seem. And Bitcoin is already starting to demonstrate that I'm better than I was before. If you thought the past was great, I'm starting off better. I'm breaking my own freaking records. And if in the past it achieved 2 zeros, then now it's breaking those records. Why not? Why is that not possible to achieve 2 zeros now? It's already starting off better than it ever has in its entire history. So do not scoff at these numbers. And these are not stupid people. These people are smarter than we are. Yes, even me. All right, so don't scoff at these. What we do know, as a broad base case, we know that based on history, Bitcoin achieves 100,000 and potentially could go all the way to 1 million. So that's our range. The question is it on the upper part of that range or in the lower part of that range? Okay? All right. So don't laugh, don't scoff. Don't think these people are just being moon boys. They have worked through certain models. All right? So remember, Tom Lee has 150 by the end of this year. That leaves an entire year of upside potential after 150. Okay? Samson Mao says, no, we potentially could go to 1 million this year. All right. So this brings me to my main question for you today. I have a question that I want you to ponder, and it's this one. If you could double your entire life Think about this, people. If you could double your entire life, what I'm saying is everything that you've ever worked for up until this point, all that you've ever accomplished from the time you were born to today, if you could double that within the next 18 months, would you? Would you do it? I want you to think of the implications of this. Some of you are 22 years old listening to me today. Some of you might be in your 30s. Some of you might be in your 50s, like me. I'm in your late 50s, like me. Some of you might even be 60, in your 60s. My point is that everything that you've ever accomplished, everything that you've worked for, can be represented by what you are and what you have right now today. Your whole life, your entire life, whether it's 60 plus years, 50 plus years, 30 plus years, 20 plus years, your entire life can be summed up by what you are right now and what you have right now and what you've accomplished right now. Your whole life can be summed up just like that. Now, what if you could take this now that you have, everything that you've ever accomplished, everything you've ever worked for, everything that you've ever saved, everything that you've ever done, who you are, what if you could take all of that and double it inside of 18 months? I am telling you that that's the opportunity we have. You can take all of your 60 plus years and double it in 18 months if history repeats. Within 18 months, you can take everything that you have, everything that you've ever saved, everything that you can point to a value in your life today. You can double it. If history's any guide, you can double it at the very, and that's being extraordinarily conservative. What I mean is this. Tom Lee is saying 150 by 2024. That's a double. That's a double. Okay, so what if that happens in 18 months? I'll take that. I think that's being stupidly conservative, but I'll take that. Our most absurd projection is a double, which means that you have the potential to double your entire existence within 18 months. That's freaking insane. I want you to ponder that. Okay. But this time is different, guys. Why? I started briefly talking to you about why Bitcoin might break its prior records. But let's continue with this. Why is this time different? Well, look at this. Never in Bitcoin's prior cycles was there regulatory clarity in the US. Now there is. There is regulatory clarity. It is now a legitimate asset in the eyes of the US, to the point where we have spot Bitcoin ETFs, which have become the best-selling ETFs of all time. Not only in the United States, but in the entire world within a matter of months. We've never before in Bitcoin's prior cycles, in Bitcoin's past, throughout Bitcoin's prior history, was there regulatory clarity. Never did we have spot Bitcoin ETFs, which are a doorway to institutional adoption. We never had corporate reserve game theory, where corporations are now starting to put Bitcoin on their balance sheet because they have watched Michael Saylor's value go through the roof by doing the same. Never before did we have this game theory, this race to put Bitcoin on your balance sheet before in prior cycles. Never in the history of Bitcoin was there any institutional adoption to speak of. Practically zero. Never before did we have pension fund acceptance, with Wisconsin putting hundreds of millions of dollars of Bitcoin into its pension fund, with New Jersey just announcing the same, and Florida and a variety of others, New York and a variety of others. Do you understand how huge pension money is and how long-term it is? You see, the difference between pension money and other institutional money, which is why I separate them, is because pensions are not under the gun for performance. They're not as pressured to produce gains over the next several months, over the next quarter, over the next 6 months, over the next year. Their money is truly long-term. So Bitcoin's volatility, or Bitcoin's supposed volatility, or USD volatility, means much less to them. They can ride through the ups and downs. They can buy the frickin' dip. Their money is longer term. Out of all the institutions that exist, it's the pension institutional adoption that is the most important, because they won't bail. They'll buy the frickin' dip. They won't exit. They're not concerned like hedge funds about a 40% drop or a 30% drop. Though they use those. This is long-term money at its finest. And so when you watch pension fund after pension fund starting to put Bitcoin on its balance sheet in its pension funds, this is extraordinarily huge. Never before in Bitcoin's history was there pension fund acceptance. And every single week now, we are starting to hear pension funds adopting it. Are you kidding me? We've never had this. And so my point here, people, is that if Bitcoin became the best performing asset in the history of human mankind without regulatory clarity, what's it going to do with it? If Bitcoin beat every single asset that has ever been, that human beings have ever been exposed to, without spot Bitcoin ETFs, what do you think it's going to do with spot Bitcoin ETFs? If it did it without corporate reserve game theory taking place, what do you think it's going to do with it? Without institutional adoption, what do you think it's going to do with it? Without pension fund acceptance, what do you think it's going to do with it? This time is different, I'm telling you. I know it's somewhat dangerous to say this, but I'm going to say it. It's different. And Bitcoin is different. I showed you this. Bitcoin is different by being at the high at this point in the cycle, when it's never been at the prior cycle high, this point in the cycle. Never. It's breaking, it's starting to break its own performances. This is insane, and it's extraordinarily exciting, but you're not ready. I know you're not. Political game theory. In what past, in what Bitcoin, in what part of Bitcoin's past did we have presidential candidates coming to Bitcoin conferences talking about putting Bitcoin on as a reserve asset for the United States, running on a Bitcoin platform? Never in Bitcoin's history was there political game theory or political acceptance of any kind. Now we have it, and it's only going to grow from here. Small nation state adoption. We never had this during prior cycles. We never had countries, however small they are, we never had countries calling for Bitcoin to be, um, uh, you know, part of their monetary policy. In no prior cycle was there accounting clarity. In fact, the counting rules for Bitcoin in the United States for public corporations was very punitive to their P&Ls. So it was a deterrent for corporations to buy Bitcoin and put it on their balance sheets because it would hurt their their P&L statements. It was punitive to do it. But now FASB accounting rules have been changed. It's no longer punitive. And this is why we're starting to see more and more corporations every single week announcing we're purchasing Bitcoin for our balance sheet. Do you see how insane this is? Do you see all the frickin' stars in a planet starting to align? Do you see Bitcoin already responding to this by already beating its record, by already outperforming all of its cycles in the past? Do you see what's about to frickin' explode on us? I gotta see. I'm sorry. I gotta see this. I gotta see your comments. I gotta see it. I gotta see if you see this. You guys gotta let me know. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you see how powerful this is? Are you kidding me? You couldn't tell me. I want to see your comments. Tell me if you understand this. You couldn't write this out better. You couldn't write this out. You couldn't have a Christmas wish list 2 years ago and come up with this. It's crazy. I'm just telling you. I just want you ready. That's all. Just in case I'm right, and I believe I'm right. Just in case I'm right, I need you ready. I want you ready. I can't have you not ready on my watch, people. I can't do it. Not on my watch. All right. Okay. Good. I'm glad. I see your comments. Awesome. It's crazy. All right. All right, let's go. Let's go. I got a couple more. I got a couple more things to share with you, and then we're done. I promise you. I promise you. This is crazy. All right, guys. So I want to cover with you my 3 price models. But I have to, these are models designed for this cycle. Now, what do I mean by this cycle? Late, up to late 20, I'll write that correctly, 2025. So let's just say we're talking December up to December 2025. That's what I mean by this cycle. I need that to be clear. By late 2025, December 2025. That's what this cycle means. Right? Now, I have to preface this. It is somewhat silly to price project with Bitcoin. If there's one asset that is really silly to do that with, it's freaking Bitcoin. It's actually borders on dumb. Yeah, I got a price target of Okay, I get it. It is dumb. It's stupid, actually. Because all that's required is that we be directionally correct. You don't have to have a price. As long as you're directionally correct, your life is better, your family is better, your future is better. You don't need a price We just need to get the direction right. And I believe we have the direction right. Do you understand? I believe this. We've got the direction. We don't need a price. We got the direction. But it's fun. Not only is it fun, I do believe that there is a value in having a model. Now that's different from drawing a number out of a hat. Oh, I think it's 150. Da, 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 da. I think having a model does have some value. And I believe in a multiple model approach. So like having a very low model, having a very high model that models out as possible, not being stupid, and also having a middle model. So I'm going to cover with you my price models for super high, but that's still possible, not stupid high, achievable high, achievable low like a stone's throw, and somewhere in the middle. Let's cover these three, okay? 3 price models, okay? And we'll see how my price models perform by late 2025. So model number 1 is the 18 times the low price model. So what does that mean? So in this model, I use the last cycle as my guide. And the prior cycle, this was the prior cycle. In the prior cycle, guys, the prior cycle low was right there. That's 3,200. Okay? Now, we know that, give me a second here. Give me a second here. I gotta do this. Okay, so this is actually wrong. This is 21 times cycle. I did this wrong, okay? But what does this 21 times low price cycle mean? It means that you take the low of the low, your prior cycle topped and produced a low. This low was 3,200. Okay? Okay? Now, this low of 32 went all the way to 69, which is here. So we went from, let's do it over here. We went from 3,200, the cycle low, to the cycle high of 69. Okay? So that's 21 times. All right? It's even more. It's 21 plus times, but we're gonna round here. So it's 21 times. If we take, let's do it like this. Let me take some charts here for you. And we're going to take this weekly chart of Bitcoin here. So here's what I'm trying to say. The last cycle bottomed out at 3,200, 3,200, and did more than went up 21 times to 69. Now, from 69, we produce another cycle low at, let's call it 15,005. If we repeat that, times 21, so we 21x the low, what does that put us at? $325, 500. That's if it does the same. All right? That is price model 1, using the past cycle, what it did the past cycle from the low to the high. What if it repeats that? Okay? Now, we already talked about the fact that this time is different. You see, it did that with no regulatory clarity. It did that with no spot Bitcoin ETFs. It did that without FASB accounting rule changes. It did that without political game theory. It did that without small nation state game theory and adoption. It did that without corporate treasury adoption. It did that without institutional adoption. It did that without pension funds adding it to their investment profile. It 21 times off the low without all of this. But I'm just saying, all right, what if it just does the same? Even though all of this is different, what if it does the same? That takes us to 325,000. It's freaking insane. Now, are there good odds that we overshoot that? Of course, because this time is different. All right, so that is price model number 1. All right? Got me? All right, cool. All right, hope that's clear. All right. Let's get back here. Okay. Now, I say that 70,000 is the new 10,000 from last cycle. So if you look at here, last cycle, here's 10,000. You see how we kept coming up to 10,000 and dropping, coming up to 10,000, maybe even overshooting a little bit, dropping, coming up to 10,000, dropping, coming up to 10,000, dropping. You see? You see all these touch points? This is 10,000. And then from 10,000, we went to 70,000. I know we went to 69,004, but let's round it. We 7x'd. We 7 times this multiple bumping number. All right? So if we go back here, guys, let me show this. So this is where the 7 times the resistance level model comes up during your halving. All right? 7 times the halving price is another way of looking at it. So Bitcoin more or less was at the halving was trading at around 7, 8, high 7s, low 8s at the halving. So that's more than 7. But it kept bumping up against this 10,000 more or less price. And so I like to do it based on that resistance level. Okay, so 7 times the resistance level after the halving price. Okay, so if we do that, if that's the case, let's go to charts again, if you'll allow me. We can go to charts again here. Sorry about that. We go to charts here again. So here's that resistance. See? 7 times. It's the delay that's getting me. Okay, there we go. 7 times the resistance. So 7 times 70,000, you know, is 490,000. That's what it did last time. That's exactly what it did last time. And let's go back over last time again. So it's bumping up here. Here's the resistance. Here's the resistance. Here's the resistance. More or less. Finally went, boom, 7 times. 7 times this level here. 7 times. Now remember, that's last time what it did without all of the things that exist this cycle that are tailwinds for Bitcoin. It didn't have the tailwinds and it 7x'd from that resistance level. Could it go way more than 7x? Absolutely. But let's just work with it just repeating what it did when it didn't have the tailwinds, just to be a bit more conservative. Okay? That is model number 2. All right? That is model number 2. All right. Give me a second here, guys. Here we go. All right. 7x model. So remember, the first one was 18x off the low, really 21x off of the low, which is 15,600. Okay? The next model, the second model, is 7x from the resistance point after the halving. 70,000 is the new 10,000 that it's 7x from last cycle. 70,000 is that resistance point for us. Okay? And the last of the 3 is a 2.5x from the high price model. So Bitcoin's prior high was a little bit less than 20K, but let's round it, 20K, right? So it basically a little bit more, but it a little bit less, but it basically 2.5x'd from 20,000. We went to roughly 70,000, 69,004. So let's round it to 70 because I'm also rounding it up to 20. Okay? So this is from here, we 2.5x'd from the prior cycle's peak. Well, the prior cycle's peak of this cycle, let's use that 70 again. If you want to round it, you can use 69 or 69.4. I'm just going to round it to 70. All right? So if we 2.5x 70, well, you know what that is. That's 175K. Now that is, in my opinion, the stone's throw model. That's what I call the stone's throw model, right? What do I mean by that? That's a stone's throw away for Bitcoin. Boom. You know, that's like Michael Jordan hitting a little jump shot from 2 feet away. All right, 175, in my opinion, by late 2025. The other two models, 490, let's round that to 500,000. So we're basically talking about 175 to 500,000 and maybe something in between those two. All right, that's basically what we're talking about. 325, 500, 175. All right, remember those numbers: 175, 325, 500. Now, if we achieve the stone's throw model of 175, that's more than a double. What if this means that you have the potential now to double your entire existence? You have the potential now to more than double, and maybe more than triple, and maybe more than quadruple. But the stone's throw model says you pretty much have slightly more than a double in the bag. You can double everything that you've ever done in your life. Please think about this. It's taken you, some of you, 30 years to accomplish what you've accomplished now. You can double it in less than 18 months. Some of you have been working for 35 years, 20 years you've been working. You can double everything you've accomplished in 20 years. To me, it's a powerful way to look at it. It's a powerful way to look at it, in my opinion. All right. I gave you my 3 price models for this cycle, which typically ends in late 2025. But I need to give you one more, which is my long-term value model. I call it my 20% long-term value model. And it's based on Bitcoin capturing 20% of the world's value, which I believe is very conservative. So let's take a look at this model. I want to shout out to Croesus BTC for putting this. I don't have his name on this for some reason, but he is the author of this. And please go follow him. He's an amazing Bitcoiner. Croesus BTC. So anyway, basically, guys, what you're looking at is the world's parking garages. And I call them, these categories, parking garages, because it's where the world parks its value, parks what it's not using right now, and has saved up or is saving up or is in reserve right now. Meaning, I don't need it for milk. I don't need it for eggs. I don't need it to put gas in my car. I'm parking it because I don't need it. I'm parking it here. So these are all the categories that the world parks their value in. That's why I call them parking garages. See, some people park their value in real estate. Now, this has a total, more or less, $330 trillion value today globally. This parking garage called bonds is 300 trillion. This parking garage called equities, stocks, is 115 trillion. These numbers could be a little off right now. It might be a little bit higher, actually. And here is currencies, 120 trillion. Currencies, fiat currencies, and cash equivalents. All right? T-bills, fiat currency, T-bills, things of that nature. Well, no, that would be in the bonds category, but this is money. This is basically fiat, 120 trillion of all the fiat currencies in the world. All right? Some people park a portion or some of their value in art. Some people have parked some of their value in gold. Some people have parked some of their value in collectibles like watches and things like trading baseball cards and things of that nature, jewelry. Okay. And then I want you to take a look at Bitcoin at 1.4 trillion. Now, I want you to take a look at how little Bitcoin is right now compared to every other parking garage, every other tranche, every other category. But I am here to tell you, as far as I'm concerned, it is as certain as night follows day that a portion of every single bucket will continue to flow into Bitcoin. That Bitcoin will serve as the ultimate black hole that sucks a portion of every one of these into itself, because it's harder. Remember, it's harder than anything on this list. It's more sound than anything on this list. It is more independent, more free, more decentralized. It's the only thing on this list that cannot be attacked. It's the only thing on this list that cannot be taken away from you. It's the only thing on this list that cannot be stolen. It's the only thing on this list that no human being can alter. No human being can touch it. No government can stop it, ban it, take it from you, unless you give them the keys, of course. But no one can debase it. No one can change the rules on you. This parking garage is the hardest one of all, the most secure one of all. It's the only one that has never been hacked. And it is going to frickin' eat the world. Now, I am basing this model on 20%, that's all, 20% of equities going into Bitcoin. Over time, guys, this is long term, 20% of gold seeping into Bitcoin. I can't move gold. I can't transport it. I'm paying all of these storage fees to hold it in London or New York. I'm paying insurance on the gold. I've never seen the gold. I've never touched the gold. I hope it's really still there. I hope the gold is freaking real. I can't move it without great risk and great cost. But this is solved in Bitcoin. A portion of this goes. I'm saying, let's work with 20%. So 20, 20, 20, 20% of 15 trillion, 20% of art, 20% of collectibles, right? Most people are into art and have ugly paintings of art on their wall and they don't even like the paintings, all right? 20% of equities, all right? 20% of real estate, 20% of bonds, 20% of people saving, stupidly saving in fiat currencies. That's going to Bitcoin. Now, let's take a look at what that brings us. 20% of gold, $3 trillion goes into gold. 3 trillion. Art, 3.6 trillion. 20% of art brings it 3.6. Collectibles, 1.2 trillion. 20% of equities right now, that's 23 trillion going to Bitcoin. 66 trillion in real estate going to Bitcoin. 60 trillion in bonds going to Bitcoin. 24 trillion leaving fiat currencies that are melting away and going into Bitcoin, bringing us to a total of around 181 trillion. You understand this? Bitcoin's 1.4 trillion today, more or less, 1.3, 1.4. 181 trillion just based on 20%, guys. And I think that's a freaking joke. 20%. 20% my ass. But let's work with my ass. 20%. Let's be conservative with it. All right. So we're going to be really conservative with this. That's 181 trillion using a very conservative 20%. Guys, look, what portion of the world did the internet take over in your lifetime? 20%? That's the portion. This is in your lifetime. The internet, did it just take over 20% of the world? Hell no. You've seen this already. You've seen this movie play out. The internet conquered the world in your lifetime, not some measly 20% of the world. It took over the world in your lifetime. And now we have the internet of money, which is far grander. We had the internet of information and knowledge took over the world in your lifetime. Now we have the internet of money. Do you know how much larger the internet of money is over the internet of information, the internet of knowledge? It's far bigger. So do you think that the internet of money, the bigger thing, is just going to take 20% of the world in your lifetime? No, but we're going to work with that. Let's just be extra conservative and say 20% in my lifetime. I will see in my lifetime 20% of the world, 20% of the world's value in Bitcoin. That brings us to 181 trillion. Now, let's look at this. What is the price of Bitcoin if 181 trillion dollars of value is in it? Well, 181 trillion divided by 21 million brings us to $8.6 million per Bitcoin in your lifetime. In your lifetime. 8.6. We just went over very conservative numbers and got to an 8.6 million. But listen to this. Let me tell you why this is even dumb. 8.6 million is dumb. Let me tell you why. Because there's something called the multiplier in the financial world. When it comes to assets, there's something called a multiplier. And this is not just applicable to Bitcoin, it's applicable to stocks, it's applicable to real estate. And this escapes a lot of retail and novice people not familiar with the financial world. And I don't want this to go over your head. So let me quickly tell you what the multiplier is. The multiplier. Let me quickly try to explain this to you. The multiplier effect communicates the fact that $1 going into an asset is not equal to $1, especially an asset that has network effects, right? Like Bitcoin does. So 1 and 1 does not equal 1. 1 and 1 equals some multiple of 1. So $1 does not equal, $1 going in does not equal $1 of value going up. No. That would be a zero multiplier. But assets don't really have a zero multiplier. The way I could explain this very easily is with an example of real estate, right? Let's say you have a gated community. And in this gated community, there are 10 homes in this gated community. And they're all relatively the same. They might have different shapes or whatever, but their values are the same. The developer designed them to be the same value, each one. So there's no competition amongst the people in the community. Everyone has the same value. And let's say that each house, all right, out of the 10, let's say that each house in the gated community is worth $1 million. So you got 10 homes. Each one is valued at $1 million. That means the community's value is 10 million. Okay? Okay. Now, if one of the people in the community sell their home for All homes are worth 1 million. But if one of the homeowners gets a buyer to buy their home for $2 million, what happens to the value of all the other 9 homes? Do you see where I'm getting? Are you starting to understand the multiplier effect? They instantly go to $2 million. Now, making the total value of the community 20 million. But did it take 20 million to raise the community value to 20 million? No, it took 1 million to raise the value of all the other homes up 1 million for a total increased value of 9 million. 1 million produced $9 million extra in value. Do you understand the multiplier effect now? I need some of you to tell me this. I need to see it before I move on. Because I'm right at the end here. This is such an important thing. I need you to tell me you understand this. All right? You got it? Tell me if you understand the multiplier effect. One sale for an extra 1 million raised the entire value of the entire community from 10 million to 20 million. And it took 1 million to raise it to 20 million. You see? That's what I mean. So when I say 181 trillion going in, do you think that should have a multiplier? Of course. I gave you 8.6 million with no multiplier. Do you see what I'm saying, people? Do you see how conservative that number is if I'm right with it gaining at least 20% of all value? I'm giving you the number with a 0 multiplier. Nothing has a 0 multiplier. Nothing. That's how conservative that number is. But I want you to keep 8.6 million in your mind anyway. I want you to walk around knowing, feeling confident in your mind. In my lifetime, I will see an $8.6 million Bitcoin, and that's conservative. In my life, this is the mantra. I need you walking away from this presentation with this mantra. I will see an $8.6 million Bitcoin in my lifetime. So does that mean you should sell it? No. Oh, Oliver, should I sell when it hits 175,000? Dude, we're gonna see an $8.6 million Bitcoin, and that's conservative. What are you talking about? What kind of question is that? Oliver, my house is worth $1 million. Should I sell it at 50,000? What kind of question is that? When people ask me this question, even understanding that Bitcoin could be millions of dollars in their lifetime, and people ask, well, Oliver, when should I take profits? You know, the people who ask me, you know how they look and sound to me? Die, 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 die. That's how they look and sound to me. Like, come on, people. You're smarter than this. You don't sell something that's going to go up forever. You don't do it. For your whole lifetime, you don't sell something at 100, 200,000 that is going to be 8.6 million, and that's conservative. You don't do that. Not in a sane world. You don't do that. You sell everything else except that. In fact, you sell everything for that. All right. Da, 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 da. That's how they look and sound to me when people ask me that. I'm telling you, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody, but I made a post today. I put a post out there today. I apologize if I haven't offended. I apologize if I have offended. I've apologized for all the people that I haven't offended yet. I apologize in advance for all the people I haven't offended yet. But be patient. I'll get to you soon. I'll get to you. All right. Nothing is off limits for me to drive this home to you people. Nothing. I will say and do anything to drive the message home. That's how much I care about you getting the message. Now, this is the last thing. I want to show you why my model is conservative. Well, I already talked to you about one reason why the model is conservative is because it is a model based with no multiplier, which is stupid. But I still think we should use the stupid number. Your mantra should be, I will see an $8.6 million Bitcoin in my lifetime. Now, I want to show you a couple of other reasons why my model is small compared to the models of others. Let's take Fidelity. Now, guys, Fidelity is one of the largest money managers on planet Earth. They hold something like $7 trillion. You can count on one hand the number of financial organizations bigger than Fidelity. And what are they saying? They're predicting $100 million Bitcoin in your lifetime by 2035. Guys, that's not me, some guy on the freaking internet. That is the multi-billion-dollar mega wealth manager, Fidelity. One of the biggest in the world. The only one bigger is BlackRock. Think about this. The only one bigger is BlackRock. Insane. So don't you ever dare think or even say for a second, Oliver's lost his marbles. Oliver's off, he's gone off the rocker now. 8.6 million. Psh, this dude is a moon boy. Don't you ever say that. Because if you're going to apply that to someone, it's not me. It's Fidelity. All right. As long as we get that straight. 100 million they're predicting in your lifetime. And I'm telling you to walk around with 8.6 million in your lifetime. Michael Saylor just spoke live at the largest Bitcoin conference in the world held in Nashville this year. And he came out with 3 base cases too. Remember I told you it's always good to model 3 different levels, which is what we did here today. His bear model by in 21 years from today, his bear model is 3 million. His most bullish model is 49 million. All right? This is 21 years from now, right? 2045. And his base case, which sits here, is 13 million. So you always use your base case. 13 million is the Bitcoin base case. This is the stone's throw. This is what could be with reason, and this is more like what's going to be. And I'm telling you 8.6 million, and Michael Saylor is telling you 13 million in your lifetime. So don't for a second think that I'm the moon boy. I'm the conservative one speaking to you. Glitch there. Am I back, guys? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Let's see if I can get some more lighting in here. I'm back. Awesome. Okay. Sorry about that. I have no idea what happened. I just got disconnected. My system froze up on me. But guys, just a few more minutes. I just want to present. I don't really quite know where I got disconnected, but that you know you know I started with 6,000 traders in early 2020, right? I started with 6,000 traders, guys. And we started in March of 2020. That group grew to 9,000 traders. Their lives were changed. When the bear market of 2022 came, that number dropped from 9,000 all the way to under 2,000. Today I have about 2,400. But I will tell you that the 2,400 who stayed and worked through that period, their lives are changed forever. Forever. It has been the most amazing gift for their lives, for their families. And they're set for life. Now, I'm telling you right here, now, listening to me, with you, there are probably hundreds of them right here. They will tell you, ask them. Ask them what happened. Ask them if their lives were not changed. If some of them are not set for life forever now. We did this over one cycle. And I'm telling you that I believe the next cycle is bigger, exponentially so than the last cycle. People to come in every 6 months, twice a year. The reason I do this is because it's necessary for me to lock it down and to start working with the group for us to raise our level of Bitcoin sophistication, our knowledge, learning how to lock our Bitcoin down, learning what sources to get Bitcoin from, how to do OTC Bitcoin versus, as well as non KYC Bitcoin versus non KYC Bitcoin, getting our node in place, privacy, locking our privacy down, learning how to borrow against our Bitcoin so we never have to sell the Bitcoin. All of these things, it's important for me to lock those things down instead of having new people coming in every day asking about things we've covered before. So I found the best way is to close the doors for 6 months, get everything covered, boom, open the doors again for the new. And so we're right around that time, about mid-year, where it's time for me to open the doors. I only have the doors open for 2 weeks, and trust me when I tell you, when I close the doors, they're closed, period. No one else gets in. I don't care what you come with. I don't care what your pleas are. Okay? This is important. Okay? So I just want to make you aware of what that is, what is involved with that. So there are 2 memberships to the group, to the club, 6 months. All right? I believe what's going to happen over the next 6 months is going to be big. Then lifetime. For those of you who know, listen, I just want to be here. I want to be here with Oliver. I want to have access to Oliver. I want to be here through every cycle, every 6-month period, every cycle, forever. All right, and there's the lifetime membership. Now, what exactly does it employ? You get all of my principles to generate generational wealth with Bitcoin. You get access to every single talk, every single session, every single study session we've ever had. You get access to from day one. You get a 5-step plan to start right now. And these are the 5 steps that are required to start your journey right now. This is an institutional approach to Bitcoin, not a retail approach, not a novice approach. I've been in the institutional world for almost 40 years. I'm going to show you how institutions properly and very artfully accumulate desirable assets. All right? We cover the most important metrics and how to use them for the best timing. I know that you can't time Bitcoin, but we've been very successful in using a dollar cost averaging approach that does incorporate some degree of timing. We know when it's better to increase the size of our dollar cost averaging amounts, decrease the size of our dollar cost averaging amounts. All right? Access to the private community, which currently is on Facebook, that is going to be moved on Discord in the very near future. Notifications of all of my personal Bitcoin plays and the movements I make. Whether I'm taking a loan out on my Bitcoin and when and why. I only take loans out on Bitcoin to get more Bitcoin. What levels I'm buying at, what levels, what degree, and so forth and so on. We meet every single month for an official study session. We analyze the markets. We look at the on-chain metrics. We look at what's happened over the last several weeks and sort of adjust our Bitcoin accumulation plan based on the current times. And of course, we learn all of the leading technology, all of the best wallets to use. Which ones are the best hot wallets? Which are the best desktop wallets to use? Which ones do I use? Which ones do I think are more private than others? How do you lock your privacy down? How do you make sure everything is running through your node? How do you set up a node? What's the best node to basically run? How do what's the difference between KYC Bitcoin, know your customer Bitcoin, and non-KYC? Do you need both? Do you need one? We go over all of these things and in what portion if you need both. All right. So the cost, guys, for the 6-month membership is $500. And of course, lifetime is $5,000 if that's what you want to do. But you can certainly start with 6 months to see if this is something that you want. But listen to this. I've got something special for you. 6-month membership, just because you sat here and listened to me, I'm going to give it to you for $157. That's a dinner, guys, for 6 months, where we're going to walk this Bitcoin journey hand in hand together for 6 months for a dinner, the cost of a dinner. Okay? Plus, I am going to give you a mini course, which people actually purchase for $197. I'm going to give that to you. Designed by me. Now that's if you do this by the closing date of July 31st. We don't have that much time. I'm closing the doors at the end of this month, on the final day of this month. You get this for $157. Guys, it's a dinner. Let's do this together for 6 months. We already talked about what's happening over the next 6 months. It's powerful. Let's make sure you don't make mistakes. Let's make sure you do this right. Do this right. Let's make sure you do it in the most secure way for you, your future, and the future of your family. All right? And for the lifetime membership, guys, I'm dropping this to just under $600. $600 forever. We will be together forever. We will walk this journey forever. Every day, every week, every month, forever. As long as I'm alive, as long as Bitcoin exists, $597. Guys, this is a throwaway. But you got to enroll in the group before the expiration, which takes place on July 31st. All right, make sure you contact, if you're interested in this, guys, Make sure you're contacting and really dealing with a person on my team. If it's anyone other than these people, it's not me, it's a scammer. I don't want you getting scammed. Please take a snapshot of this, come back to this point in the presentation. I prefer you just take a quick snapshot. All right? Make sure it's the name, make sure it's the WhatsApp number, make sure it's the email. You make sure. And if you have any doubt, you DM me on x.com. If there's any doubt, if you got interest and you just want to make sure, you DM me on x.com. But you can pretty much make sure if it's the name, the WhatsApp number, and the email address, you can be pretty certain you're dealing with one of my team members. A lot of you have been asking, Oliver, when can I join? When can I join you? When can I come into your group? Well, the wait is over, guys. The doors are open. You have until July 31st. Now, listen, I know there are many things you could be doing with your Saturday morning, your Saturday afternoon, even your Saturday evening for that matter. But the fact that you've spent it here with me is something that I don't take for granted, guys. And I have always promised that if I am ever able to grab a mic, step on a podium, address one person, 10 people, 1,000 people, I would do my best to deliver something of value, something that you can potentially walk away, and something that potentially can affect your life forever. I hope I've done that here today. But if I haven't, I promise you, every single time we meet, every single time I have one of these live ones, I'm going to get better and better and better. All right? So I want to thank you for joining me today. I hope it was impactful. I hope it was powerful. I hope you've walked away with something. And I want to welcome the small number of you who I know are going to come into the family fold. So welcome to the family. All right? But if you're really serious about this, you can double, triple, quadruple your life. Let's do it together. Let's make sure we do it right. Let's make sure we do it together as a team, as a community, in private, which is important. And let's lock this down. All right? All right, guys. Ciao for now. Boom, boom, boom. And another one.